Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles, along with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Our special guest today is Elizabeth Roberts. A Vermont native, Elizabeth has been living with her family in Massachusetts since 2008. Liz has a strong athletic background, having played sports her entire life, and her passion for health and wellness has only grown since childhood. She studied entrepreneurship and finance at Babson College and played sports throughout college. For several years after college, she pursued a career in finance, but her ultimate goal was to run her own business. After the birth of her two children, she took her first a Pure Barre class. She soon realized the impact Pure Barre could have on strengthening one's body and overall wellness when she saw her body change post-childhood, and she knew she wanted to bring Pure Barre to the community. Liz loves the burn and body transformation results of the Pure Barre workout. She opened her first Pure Barre while pregnant with her third child and tucked all the way through. Elizabeth has grown from one location to 9 studios in under 5 years. Elizabeth sits on the Pure Barre President's Council and Marketing Committee, and she and her husband, Frank, live in East Hampton, Massachusetts, along with their 3 children, a dog, and a cat. Elizabeth, we're so glad to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're going to be so much fun.
Really?
Had like a fraction of your energy.
Yeah. It sounds like you've been an athlete your entire life. Let's go back. Where did that all start?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 2 older brothers, which helped drive that as well, I think. So I was a tomboy and I played all the sports. I actually can picture a softball photo where I have my soccer shin guards on in the photo because I was going from one to the next. But I played soccer, basketball, softball all the way through, and did the travel teams and just loved sports. And I played with my cousins and my friends and my brothers, and we were really good. And I was on some good teams and some bad teams, so I loved it. And then I went to college. I knew I wanted to go to college in the Boston area. And I was very good at math as a kid, and my parents were entrepreneurs, so we decided on Babson College. Honestly, they also gave me the most money, and and so I was like, okay. So I went, and I was playing intramural sport, like this is just like a pickup intramural league, and I was beating everybody. And all of a sudden, these adults start coming watching, and I'm like, what's going on? Come to find out, it's the basketball coach, and the assistant coach is the softball coach, and they try to convince me to join the basketball team, but at that point, I was like, I really just want to be a student. I've played a lot of sports growing up. I just want to try to go to college. So they convinced me that they need a center fieldman for their softball team, and I joined. And I mean, I liked it. It was great. We got to travel and do the whole collegiate, like, official team, but I had wanted to try something new. So I joined the rugby team. And a lot of people are very surprised when they look at me and say, oh, you're on the rugby team. And I'm telling you, I loved it. I was good at it. And we had a lot of fun. We were one of the best sports teams at Babson, and we were winning, and it was a rough sport, but it was so fun. And then I grew up in Vermont, and everybody played hockey, but as the 3rd youngest with entrepreneurial parents, I didn't really, for any hockey parent out there, they know it's a lot of commitment. So as a senior in college, I decided I was going to play hockey, and I really can't skate. And so I still talk about it and I talked about it in interviews post-college, and it's still one of the best experiences of being the worst on the team. So I couldn't stop. So my teammates would still I would stop or hit the boards, and they'd be like, "Great job, Liz, you did it," or "You stayed on your feet," or "You actually caught the puck." And so I'm still really close with my friends, and they're zipping around me and having fun. But I learned a lot being the worst on the team. It's so fun. Like, there's no pressure, and you like every marginal improvement, everybody's cheering for you. So it was really an awesome experience to go from being the best on the team, or one of the best. Would never claim I was ever the best, but one of the best, to being the worst. So it's definitely something I'm so super happy I did. A lot of people don't get to see both sides of that. Um, and so I played sports all through college. And then after college, I went into financial consulting, and I started becoming a road warrior on the plane, driving, and wanted to stay fit. And so I started running or using the hotel's gym, which was mostly a treadmill, and then carrying my massive laptop bag and sitting in a plane. And I wasn't taking care of myself. There was no stretching, no foam rolling, no nothing. And I started having hip problems, and sciatica problems and IT band problems. So I started learning about it. And meanwhile, I met my husband in college, and he is a big runner. And so his family all runs, and they do ultra marathons, big running family. And so he's trying to help me. And so I ended up in PT for a whole year trying to figure out my hips. At one point I couldn't run a mile. I was trying, it's kind of actually when we got married. Mm-hmm. And then stayed in finance, just kind of worked through my hip issues. And when I took my first Pure Barre class, it was all the moves the PT had given me that I wasn't doing at home. And so that I fell in love, because I was like, not only is this workout killer, I had just run a half marathon when I had done my first Pure Barre class, and it hurt in all the good ways. As a mom, you lose some abdominal muscles after childbirth, and, I was fit, but not as strong as I could have been, especially in my core, just from running and doing a little home workout. So when I took this Pure Barre class, it was amazing. I hurt in all the good ways, and I just loved it. It was all my PT moves. My hips felt great. And so that's one of the reasons that I chose my Pure Barre journey.
Oh, what a journey. What a journey. This is so exciting. It's definitely that passion meets purpose kind of conversation. But if you don't mind, I want to go back.
Okay.
Because you're an athlete, softball, basketball, rugby, for goodness sake, and then hockey. And you didn't start playing rugby until you were in college, and you still kind of rose to the top, and kind of this natural athleticism and focus that you have. And then you went to hockey, which didn't seem to be your sport. And as you were sharing that, I got to tell you, it reminded me of my high school days when my gym coach, because this is Title IX days, right? Who recruited me to play basketball, and I was a horrible basketball player. In fact, I was the world's worst basketball player. I made 2 points the whole season. And I frequently would say, why am I playing every game? Why am I starting every game? I'm terrible. And she would say, Rebecca, everybody else plays better when you're on the court. Now, I didn't know if that was a compliment, honestly, but somehow having a player on the field, in this case me, who was mediocre at best and probably horrible if I was to tell the truth, somehow made a difference on the court. But your experience of being what you consider the worst player on your hockey team, you see as a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, it was the personal growth. I'm not sure my teammates would have said I made them play better, but for me, I didn't realize up until that point that the pressure that comes with being good, right? And so, when you're bad, it's like, I don't mind being on the B string or C string or whatever. And there's no pressure when I go out there. In fact, they cheer if I can just catch the puck. And, it's like the growth. And then as you can see yourself getting better, and, at some point when you're doing something for so long, there's such small growth. You don't get to see this exponential growth, which is so fun. And it was just nice. Like my teammates, they're still some of my good friends. We're all scattered throughout the country, but like they were so supportive, right? And when you're the best, and in fact, sometimes you deal with the other end with kids, especially, you get jealousy and meanness. When you're the worst, nobody's mean to you, right?
Wow.
Right. And it's an interesting thing, right? Because it just is a personal growth, and it was so freeing to be bad, and not have that pressure.
I'm so curious how that translates today as a business owner. Because if you would have been the best at everything all the time, you would have been one kind of manager or one kind of team leader. How does understanding what being the worst is like, and then understanding what it takes to become better, how does that translate into your type of leading or coaching or training other people today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I think there's a lot that can be gained from that, right? So I think it goes down, at the end of the day, now I have over 100 employees, so I'm managing people primarily. And so understanding how you get from point A to B and people's strengths and weaknesses, you talk about being the worst basketball player and having that bring your team up, it takes every single person, including the cheerleader on the side. We've all have that friend that came on the basketball bus that didn't play but kept the books, and they were the most supportive person. That person is a vital part of the organization, but they might not be able to make a, score a point, but they are there for the moral support. It's every single person makes a team. I'm into when the pandemic hit, I actually hired a consultant to do our DISC analysis, which is our personality assessment for all my managers, to see our strengths and weaknesses and how we can play on each other. And I still think about that all the time when I'm managing them or trying to decipher their actions is, okay, let's talk about, okay, this person is a people pleaser, and they're doing this for this, when maybe there's a managerial moment where I say, okay, let's recognize why you're doing this and let's adjust, or let's take this and use it as a strength. And you can let's funnel you to do this part of the job where this strength will make you do better, and not do something that your natural characteristic is against. And so, you talk about being the worst. It's like, I obviously grew from that. Somebody else might not have, but it's takes everybody to make it go around. I mean, I before the podcast started, I was telling you I coach my kindergarten daughter's soccer team, and there's one little boy on the team that thinks he's really bad, and his parents, they complimented me last night because for the first time he's found his niche in goalie. He loves to be the goalie. He showed up with goalie gloves. Parents got him. They're trying to do it, and he's like, he's doing so well. And so I had to get him out of goalie for a little bit because, well, I'm not very good. And I said, you're just learning. And he got the ball, and he was having so much fun. And his parents came after and said, this has never happened. And it's like, well, every part, and he's doing so well, and he's found his spot in goalie, but he's playing the other part. But it just takes everybody and a little bit of encouragement to kind of get it going, even like a young developmental age to managing a 40-year-old woman. I think we're all still just trying to do our best, and we all have strengths and weaknesses.
So beautifully stated. But is there some kind of saying, the sum of the parts are greater than the whole, or something like that? And each part has their role, whether it's a goalie on a soccer team, or a guard on a basketball team, or a center fielder in softball, or wherever we're playing. We each have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. And if we're playing on the same team with a similar outcome, a similar goal, then we play to that part, and we appreciate the strengths and weaknesses of others. So beautifully stated. So let's talk about Pure Bar. So you entered Pure Bar originally as a client. You were there, and basically it in some ways kind of replaced the physical therapy that you were doing on a hip issue that you were encountering. At what point did you fall in love with it? At what point was it like, this is more than just a place that I can come work out? What was that pivotal moment for you?
So, so I actually wasn't really a client before. So I when I had my first child, I left the world of finance. It was very inflexible for a working mom. And my husband was working at his family business in working long hours. And I realized that I didn't want to put my child in daycare from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. And so I couldn't find a flexible job within finance. So I left the world of finance and I started consulting, doing some, I was doing financial modeling for small local businesses a little bit and trying to really find my place in the world of what I was going to do now as a mom. And so I was looking for entrepreneurial things. So Pure Bar really came to me as an entrepreneurial opportunity. I had people on Facebook that were talking about this. I was like, I didn't know what bar was. And so what the story of how I got into Pure Bar is Babson College is in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And so we live about an hour and a half-ish away. And so I said to my husband, I said, hey, I want to go take this class. I want you to come with me. And we're sitting on the couch. It's like Thursday night. And I tried to book us into a class on the weekend and it's full. Can't get in. And I'm like, okay, well, let's try next weekend. And so I book us into the next weekend. And I don't know what I pay, $25 a class, $30 a class. And we drop our children off at my in-laws and we were going to have a nice little lovely day in the town that we met, we're going to take this class. And we get there and they're like, oh, and you got to buy these socks. So these little sticky socks that we wear for Pure Bar. So I was like, okay, we're down like $80 now. And we get there and there's all these older fit women. And so we get into class and these women are so strong. Like I said, I've run a half marathon and I'm like, I feel fit. My husband is fit. He's a runner. And we're like not holding our plank. These women are rocking it and we're shaking like a leaf. And we're like, what is going on? And I'm thinking, this is amazing. They're older, they're fit. They're, you don't age out of this sport. Right. Wow. And I'm like, this is great. And so on the way home after the one class, because it's an hour and a half, I applied for the franchise documents from my phone. And that's how it started. So then I was in Western Mass all alone, no Pure Bars around, trying to learn. And it's funny because at one point I remember I became pregnant with my third child and I'm trying to, at that point in time, you had to be an instructor to open a Pure Bar. And I'm thinking, I'm not worried about any business side of this. My parents were entrepreneurs. I went to business school. My husband's business entrepreneurial person. I have no qualms. I'll figure out the real estate. I know how to run a business. I figure it out. Like I'm confident. Mm-hmm. I couldn't teach the class. I'm like, oh my gosh, beat. I have to talk to the beat. And my husband is a drummer and he's going, Liz, 1, 2. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm like, hear that drop? And I'm like, I don't hear that drop. And I'm holding a plank pregnant. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I have to teach this class. And so I'm just alone in my living room trying to learn this class. And so that is actually how I started. But I knew I liked it because I'm doing the PT moves. My body hurt in all the good ways. And I was like, I'm bringing this to Western Mass. And that's where I opened my first location. So I had to overcome, I did learn to teach the class. Sometimes the corporate people that helped me, I was like, we have a much better system now for people learning in remote places. But at that time, I was really kind of a little island off to by myself. And we laugh at how I wasn't very good at the beginning, but I did end up being a really good instructor and I taught for many years. So that's kind of how you talk about how passion meets purpose, right? I have the athletic passion and I have a passion for a business and it's where it all came together. So if I go back to your original question, like where did that come together? It was that I took this workout that was unlike any other workout I'd ever seen. Yeah. And passionate about working out, now a mom, want to stay fit. I feel good when I'm fit and I'm a better mom when I'm fit, feeling strong. And then the purpose was I was looking for something entrepreneurial. I was looking for a flexible career. I like working. I love working. I just want to be able to, I'm sitting in my child's room right now because I have a sick child that has a sniffle, can't go to school during COVID. I want to be the one to coach the soccer game. So I want that flexibility, but I have no qualms with working hard. It's just the flexibility. And so it's that passion of mine plus the purpose that really did come together. And I've learned a lot through my journey, and I've, we talk about like my hockey experience. There's a lot of weaknesses I've found, and, but the buck drop, when you're an entrepreneur, the buck drops with you. So even if it's your weakness, you have to figure it out and figure out the resources to help you through that weakness, or, delegate it if it must be delegated. But, I've got a lot of strengths too that I came to the game with. And I think that, that's something that has helped me grow from one to 9, and I'm still growing locations. The pandemic has certainly put a bit of a step back.
Damper on that. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's an amazing story. I just love your story. I love how your passion and purpose collide. I really want to hear a little bit more about those earlier entrepreneurial days where you first recognized that, hey, I kind of like what mom and dad do, because a lot of kids kind of rebel against what their parents do, right? If their parents are doctors, they don't want to be a doctor, they want to be a drummer, or like you said, or this or that. But when did you realize that entrepreneurship was your passion?
It's a great question. And one I've asked myself before, and I kind of think it was always there. I think the difference is, so I come from a long line of dairy farmers. It's like you just work when you work. And so it's a different mentality. It was never like a 9 to 5. I mean, I've got, my aunt's a doctor, my aunt's a teacher, but really the mentality is you just get the job done. And I didn't know that growing up, that was just an entrepreneurial mentality. And, and talking about business at the dinner table wasn't unusual. And, oh, I got to go back, I didn't get it done. Like that was just how we grew up. And like I joke, when I was in second grade, we had one of those really old computers, and my mother had me reconciling her checkbooks for her business by matching the numbers. I got to hit the button, to match it. And I loved it, but it was like, she's like, oh, you got to do all these today. Cause it was like Saturday, and she got to close her books, and, and so I just grew up with, you just get the job done. You have fun in between, but there was no set anything, my parents made my games, but there were many times when I took a nap underneath my mom's desk, and that's just how it was. So this whole 9 to 5 or whatever was very foreign to me. And it always has been. And I think that because it's the dairy farmer mentality that the responsibility drops with you, the idea of pushing the responsibility and not having the responsibility is foreign. So I think it was just, it's in there in me. And, and I don't know how else to explain it. So it was never a question of what I would do. I just knew I was going to do what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Someday you were going to be an entrepreneur. You were an acorn and you were going to be an oak tree. That's just the way it kind of was. But I love how you put that. You just get the job done, because that really is an entrepreneurial mindset rather than an employee mindset, which would say the opposite, which is that's not my job. Here's my job title, here's my role. And if it's slightly outside of that descriptor, that's not my job. An entrepreneur's mindset, as you pointed out, is just get the job done. Doesn't matter how long it takes or who you have to delegate, or if you have to pick up the mop and do it yourself. It's a mindset that an entrepreneur seems to possess, and your parents possessed it. You observed it. You somehow either just were born with it, or just you were nurtured into it. Because your point is well made. Once you're in a business, franchise, or anything for that matter, it's about getting the job done. It doesn't mean you're the best at it, but you're going to get the job done.
Yeah.
So I like how you articulated that. So, but then also what you've had to do is this other part of you that says, I'm not really good at that. I'm not great at hockey. I'm sure you see that also in your business. I'm not great at whatever, this thing. And then you hire to it and find the right team around you, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one thing, that comes to mind as you're talking about this is, I think one of my successes is with hiring my team is that I try to hire for the entrepreneurial mindset. So I have 9 studios, and now, like, when I went from 2 studios to 3 to 5 very rapidly, I knew that I was going from I'm the face of the studio to this is an investment. I'm hiring somebody else to be the face of the studio, and I need them to own it. So we now joke that it's no longer my studio. We call it the manager studio, because I'm trying to empower them with taking ownership of the studio and getting the job done. And, it's a hard thing to identify in a small interview process, but that's my goal, is to hire somebody that's just there to get the job done and own it. And I think that's been a success. I haven't had anybody leave me since COVID hit. I kept everybody on payroll, and it's been really tough. But I've let some people go, and from my standpoint, but I haven't had anybody leave. And so it's like, to me, it's like they take ownership. They love the business. For a lot of people that work for Pure Bar, the passion and purpose that you're talking about, they have that too.
Yes.
They have left a different job. They are in fitness because they believe in fitness. They love helping women and some men find their fitness goals. And we don't promote being skinny or, whatever. We promote strength of mind and body. And that's what we want you to come when you come. So we're going to make you stronger. We're going to find you a community of like-minded people, and we're going to be your third place, right? We're going to be that place that you come and my managers, they believe in that too. So that's why they stay. And I think that, for whatever reason, they like me, and they they see that same passion and purpose, and they believe me, and that we're going to make it through the pandemic, and we're going to rebuild our studios, and we're going to continue to help people like we have.
I love it. At Zarco Profiles, we truly believe that we hire for compatibility. We hire for similar shared values. And then from there, you can always train someone. You can always train on the competencies, but it's so important to identify shared values. What do you think the values are of Pure Bar, or those values that you seek in the managers, and that you continue to instill as you upskill them, and as you continue to, grow your team?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of skills, right? We're asking them to be very good at multitasking, but also to be able to read the crowd, right? So there's that ability to multitask, but take care of people. So those, on the disc, there's different things you can talk about it, but it's basically somebody that can read the room. So you can go in and say, when a client comes out and says that class was amazing, they might not realize why that class is amazing, but I need that manager to realize why that class was amazing. And on the flip side, when they say, yeah, it was okay, something has not clicked perfectly there. And so we need them to be able to do that, but at the same time, manage their staff and make sure that woman that comes in that's not quite ready to commit the time to herself, we help her commit that time to herself to hit her goal and to coach her through it, right? So it's very multifaceted. It's like, some of these qualities, they just have to have passion for health and wellness and helping people. And I don't really get these comments as much, but I did a lot when I was teaching and working in the desk a lot. But it's like when somebody comes up to you and says, you guys changed my life, or you saved my life. I had a woman who fell down her basement, the stairwell. And she said, she was an older woman, and she goes, I caught myself. If I hadn't been doing Pure Bar, I wouldn't have had the strength. I think I would have died.
Wow.
If somebody comes and tells you that, it's amazing. There was another woman a couple years ago that said she had a heart attack on the road, and her doctors told her if she hadn't been as strong as she was and lost the weight that she had through diet and Pure Bar, she probably would have died that day on the road. And so they come and they're like, you've changed me. And that's why they're there, and it's been really hard through COVID because there's been a lot of negativity, right? And people, I think people don't want to work out, and everybody's anxiety levels are through the roof. And so they're nervous, but we're a place where people find that those things that change their lives. And that's really why we do it. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question about the characteristics, but
you are. You
Yeah,
are.
it's all that they're coming here. That's what they're here for. And my goal as their business is I want them to have a job they love, hope they provide for the life that they want to live, and have some fun, right? But there's always some work that they're not going to want to do. I mean, we all have that work that we don't really want to do, right? And we acknowledge that, but we move on from that, and then we focus on, like, let's have some fun, let's get this team together, we'll build our culture in our staff culture in the studio. And right now that's our focus. As I hate to say that COVID is waning, because we don't really know, but I mean, that's our focus, is let's rebuild our communities, because that's really what hit. Like, not only did it hit people going to the gym, but we lost our communities because people got scared to be by people, and
Yeah.
rightfully so. So that's kind of where we are now in our Pure Bar journey.
And it's something we desperately need, that community, that fellowship, that connection, whether it's our emotional, mental health, that's a big component of it. And you're right, these last few months have kind of dampened that. What's interesting to me is this recipe that you have for your culture is a combination of fun, community, and making a difference. It's kind of this beautiful, I mean, think about it. I'm making a difference as a manager, as an instructor, as a franchisee. I'm making a difference in the life of someone, creating greater well-being, greater physical fitness, greater strength. I'm making a difference in that individual while I'm having fun. I mean, for goodness, that's like magic in my mind, right? It doesn't get any better than that. And then at the same time, building a community of these men and women coming together, seeing the changes in one another. These are going to be lifelong friends, just like you had with your sports teams. These are lifelong friends that you're going to meet at Pure Bar.
We have in a lot of our studios, there's a group of friends. They all met there. They've traveled the world together. They go to coffee after, and they met at Pure Bar. And it's and I don't think that's true of any gym. I think every gym has a community, but like, we really try to push that. And the other part is that we joke as a staff, we get to wear leggings to work, and they're nice leggings, and we know how to dress a woman and all body types to look good, because I do think you look good, you feel good, right? And it doesn't have to be a stereotypical look, right? It's any body, any shape and size, but when you look good, you feel good. And so we're trying to, we do the all encompassing, because we have a boutique that we run alongside our studio, our classes. But so that's fun. Like, I always joke, that's the fun side, right? That we get to wear fun clothes.
The retail side. The let's play with the clothes side.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I want to go. How about you,
That's
Tracy?
exactly what I'm sitting here thinking. I know there's one west here, because I looked it up before our conversation.
Yeah, you got to go. I mean, I started in 2015, and I've taken classes regularly since I opened it. I even, I had a child at one point in there, but I've done it through injuries, through all of life, but it just, it doesn't get old. And the results are there. And I have done so many activities in my life, and I'm not sick of it. And even as an owner, where I don't, when you own something, sometimes, I notice the dust, or I notice something off, and yet I still get over it, and I enjoy the class. Like, I shut my eyes and I get back into me, and I'm like, okay, let's focus. And, we're back in it. And then I'll dust the molding that I saw the dust after. But that's, I still love it. And some people ask me that, do you still take classes? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I still take classes. I can't get there enough, because I'm still a working mom too, but yes.
Right.
Okay. So mommy and, a run-in with both hips. So tell us, how long can you hold the plank pose for? Now.
Well, we hold it for 90 seconds every class. We have had plank offs. I don't normally join because I don't want to win. So we had a contest on Zoom during it, and I think I held it for a long time. I can't remember, like 5 minutes.
Wow,
we were getting creative. Let's have fun on Zoom
Sure.
in our Facebook community that we created. But yeah.
That's
I love it.
crazy. Well, ladies, we're kind of wrapping up time here, but as a behavioral scientist, I love observing you. It's been so fun, Liz. So I have kind of an off the wall question to kind of wrap this up. Several of your decisions in life on the surface almost seem impetuous, intuitive, quick. Going into basketball, going into hockey, instantly sort of picking up the phone or applying for Pure Bar. You kind of just knew and you took instant action, even without a lot of data. Okay, I'm going to try hockey. Okay, I'm going to try, excuse me, rugby was the other one I was thinking. Neither you really had any experience, but you said yes to it. In the same way with Pure Bar. So is this normal for you to quickly know when something is right for you?
I think so. I think it's harder as I age. I tried to take up, I have taken up mountain biking with my family. And at one point I fell, my husband's like, try harder. And so we always joke, I'm like, I'm trying harder. But it's interesting. I think so. I do go with my gut, but I do try to have an analysis to back it up. But I have my staff jokes to me that I'm the eternal optimist, right? Because I'm like, I'll figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. Like, I'm going to make it work. And like, I generally make it work. And it's not always easy. I mean, I opened my first studio very pregnant, and I decided to host my husband's whole family for Thanksgiving, and I opened on Black Friday. And they were like, I was up till 2 pregnant, and then I had a lovely Thanksgiving, and then I went and opened the studio. I'm like, how did you do it? And I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea how I just did that, but I did it. And so that, I mean, I think that it's got to be an entrepreneurial thing, because my mother does it too. I'm like, you're not going to pull this off, and then she pulls it off, and so I do like to try new things. I think that I try less new things as I'm older, but compared to other people I see, I was joking with another mom, as my daughter, my middle daughter is really into gymnastics. So I bet you could do that. I was like, yeah, I tried, but I hurt myself. She goes, I wouldn't even try. And the thought of not trying never occurred to me. So I think that I just try, and maybe I think I'm younger than I am still. Yeah, I do like to try new things. And
Wow.
I think I remember when I went to college and I went completely out of my comfort zone, didn't know anybody in my school, and my parents dropped me off, and it was really uncomfortable. And I went to this school where it was very foreign. There was a lot of foreign kids, a lot of foreign things that weren't in Vermont. I always liked clothes. I remember thinking Abercrombie and Fitch was the highest. And then literally there was Prada boxes in the garbage next to me. I was like, what's that? And I was very out of place. So whenever I feel out of place, or not out of place, but like, I don't know, I quickly research in the background, like, okay, I don't know this. Like, let me feel it, whether it's socially or like just in a subject. And so it's just in my personality. And I think because I've thrown myself into these situations enough that I can now navigate something uncomfortable much easier. So like if a business thing happens, and now it's like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I don't feel inadequate anymore, because now I know I might not know, but I know who to ask that might know. And so that those inadequacies that, I can't say that right, that I felt as like a college kid going into these foreign situations that I navigated through, I think it helped me. And even when I was in consultant, it was a very high paced job. We, did restructuring work. We were, I was telling somebody the story of being in the Lehman boardroom before it collapsed, and like different things. And you're just put in these positions, and you learn to just kind of roll with it and figure it out. And I think that that's happened enough in my life that I can continue to do that and feel less and less queasy on the inside. There's always squeeze, right? Because you're uncomfortable, but now it's a little bit exciting because it's nice to kind of break out of the norm.
Woo. All right. So I think we have a business proposition here. If we could bottle this optimism,
Yes,
and this I'll figure it outness into something that we could drink, or we could apply, or we could whatever. Oh my goodness, ladies, the 3 of us would be gazillionaires, right? If we could just take Liz and take these 2 attributes and create some potion, figure it out potion we'd be rich.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Right.
Really incredible. Really impressive.
It's very
True.
impressive. So
True.
Tracy, as we wrap up, Liz, before we end, how do folks learn more about you and or learn about the Pure Bar opportunity?
Yeah. Well, Pure Bar is international now, still mostly in the US. We have some space in Canada, but, check us out, purebar.com. Find the location near you. We offer several classes. Try our foundations. It's where we get to be a new client. And it's a little geared towards, it's a little slower, not easier, but you can jump in, try it out, see if it's for you. Yeah, check it out. It's a workout that you can do, up into your 90.
All right, I'm gonna try to do a 90-second plank. Tracy, any final thoughts for our?
I definitely have to work on my plank. That's for sure.
Me
You've
too.
definitely inspired me, Liz. And if I had to say, if I could sum up today's interview and what I would think that you bring, because you have these entrepreneur skill sets, this athleticism, which is incredible. But I think that there's one word. I'm getting like a little emotional here, but I feel like there's one word, which is heart. I feel like you bring the heart, that you infuse it in, you lead by example. You learned how to be the trainer, even though you were pregnant and it was difficult or remote, whatever it was. And the managers that you hire all see that incredible dedication and heart that you bring to everything, and they don't want to let you down, is what I'm intuiting about this. And I'm just so impressed with you. And I'm thankful that there are people like you in the world, and strong individuals and coaches and women who set the example for like other women. So thank you.
Thank you. It's interesting at, you made me cry. I have I have a couple of district managers and they're friends also, but she called me in the pandemic and she goes, well, I told my husband that no matter what, even if you can't pay me, I'm going to work for you. And I was like, it's not going to get to that, I hope. But thank you.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate it. I think we all have a different definition of success, but for me, it's less about making money, but more about running a good organization and the people that work for me. And obviously, I would like to make some money also while we're at it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, you made my co-host cry, but
Sorry.
we still love you. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I fully agree with Tracy. You are the heart of your organization. You are someone the rest of us need to emulate. And we really appreciate you taking the time out today, especially with the little one that's a little sniffly today. So thank you again for making time for us.
Well, thank you guys very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And the rest of you listening in, thank you for listening in to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. We'll see you next week for another show.